The Madman!
Alright, here I am with another card review. I did not expect to be doing this card review before Monday's big reveal stream, but Blizzard happens to have just released, to our surprise, 2 Death Knights and 2 other cards on Sunday. Let's begin with Druid of the Swarm. Either it's a 1-2 with Poisonous, or a 1-5 with Taunt. Those are both beasts, by the way. That's a really good choice because one of them is clearly way better for the early game, 1-5 of Taunt, and one of them is really good for the late game, 1-2 of Poisonous, since Poisonous kills everything. So if you have even a 2-mana card in the late game, that could take down a huge minion, or require at least 1 card to deal with. Even if that was just the card, 2-mana 1-5 Taunt, that might be good enough, and the Beast Tag, that might be good enough to see play. That's a 6-stat card for 2 mana. Cards which have low attack and high health are also really good with buffs, such as Mark of Yasharaj, or Mark of the Lotus, or Power of the Wild. Might see this card start slipping into the token Druid. Druid of the Swarm, you were supposed to stop the aggro, not join it. Also worth mentioning, if you have Fandral out, you get a 2-mana 1-5 Taunt Poisonous. That's pretty good. Webweave, for 5 mana, you get 2 1-2s? But it's not quite that because those cards kill anything that they touch. And it's Druid hard removal. I remember when Giant Wasp was revealed, I was like, huh, that actually might see play in Druid. So now we've got Webweave. Ixar, card tester, developer over on the Hearthstone team, revealed that this card used to cost 4, but it was overpowered. So they had to move it to 5 rather late in the design process. Bump it up by 1 mana, that often makes it suck. And I think that's what happened to this card pretty much. I mean, you can kind of see how at 4 mana this card would be overpowered. Very optimistically, it would be 4 mana for 2 Assassinates. It is a card that nearly always goes at worst 1-for-1 and very often 2-for-1. I would say at 4 mana it would have been like deceptively powerful, and people would have played it and then been like, holy crap, this is like the best card of the set that looks bad. But at 5 mana, that probably pushes it a bit too much. It's still better than what people think, I'll say that much, but it probably sucks. Now, it's worth mentioning, if they had charge, it'd be great. Wow, good thing you're not on the Blizzard Hearthstone development team. Are you kidding me? I'll just casually give this... I think I like this comment even more. Yeah, this card would be good if it summoned 2 Ysera's with Poisonous. Malfurion the Pestilent, one of the Death Knights revealed of 2. This card isn't very exciting in terms of mechanics, but I think that it is quite solid and good. So for 7 mana, the immediate effect you get is to summon either 2 Poisonous Spiders, that's 2 1-2s, or 2 Scarabs of Taunts, that's 2 1-5s. So the Poisonous Spiders are Webweave, and the Scarabs of Taunt is basically a moderate spreading plague. And we'll round the 5 armor effect when packaged with that. Like, this all is worth approximately 5 mana. And then you have to consider the hero power that goes with it, the Plague Lord. That is a really good hero power upgrade. And that's actually better than Justicar Trueheart's ability to just bump your hero power up to 2 attack, 2 armor. And by the way, both sides work with Fandral Staghelm. So if you have Fandral on the board, when you play Malfurion, you're getting the 2 Poisonous Spiders and the 2 Scarabs. And if Fandral's on the board, when you press the button, you're getting 3 attack and 3 armor. Old Druid didn't run Justicar Trueheart, which buffed their hero power up to 2-2. So will new Malfurion be better than Justicar Trueheart? The 2 Poisonous Spiders tends to be better than the 6-3 because Poisonous Spider is basically like 2 6-2s, and the Scarabs of Taunt, that's like a nice choice if you're up against aggro. So, yes, it's better than Justicar Trueheart, is my conclusion. Plus, you're getting the 5 armor. Seems great with my revealed card, Ultimate Infestation. You're ramping anyways, so seems like a good card to ramp to. I think because this card is not very flashy, it gets a little bit underrated by the public in comparison to some of the other Death Knights, but I think so far this looks like the best Death Knight to me. That is until we see the next one. Blackguard, a really interesting new Paladin card which has a very unique stat line at 6 mana 3/9. Whenever your hero is healed, deal that much damage to a random enemy minion. So here's a really interesting mechanic, by the way, between how Blackguard and True Silver Champion works. When you attack a minion with it, True Silver Champion heals you, and then you go out to attack. But suppose you were to have the Blackguard activate, and the minion that you were attacking had just 2 health. If Blackguard ends up randomly dealing 2 damage to that minion that you were about to attack, your hero will not attack then. You'll save the durability, but you will have gained 2 still, and then you can then attack again. That's how it's worked previously. I imagine that's how it will work with Blackguard, so very interesting potential interaction there. The tough thing is finding the room to put this into Control Paladin, because Control Paladin is already on the fringe of whether or not they run Ivory Knight in their deck, which is a 6-drop. It's like, is it too slow? It obviously has better stats than Ivory Knight, and it's actually one of the best statted minions, I'd say. As good as it looks, I'm not entirely sure that there's the room for it. It is much better statted than Ivory Knight, and it does have more tempo, especially if you're playing this card, and it's very tough to remove, and then you follow it up immediately with Ragnar's Lightlord. And Uther of the Ebon Blade, it turns out that Paladins are stronger when they become Death Knights. How strong is a 5/3 lifesteal weapon? A lot of Control Paladin decks have really wanted to run a Forbidden Healing, but it's kind of the worst card in their deck, because in some matchups it's just too slow, and in some matchups it's not necessary. This card gains you 20 health over 3 turns, which is the same as Forbidden Healing, but it's even better than that because you can actually remove 3 of your opponent's minions if you have the health to spare. I guess the card to compare it with would be Gladiator's Longbow, which doesn't really see play as a 5/2 weapon which makes you immune, but it probably would see play if it had 1 more durability. It would definitely see play if it had 1 more durability. So that's 7 mana. But not only that, you're getting an improvement in the hero power by a substantial amount. Instead of summoning a 1/1, you're summoning a 2/2. But by the way, that's not all. Not only are you summoning just a 2/2, if you happen to collect 4 of these 2/2s, just go ahead and destroy the enemy hero while you're there. Now, I think too many people are focusing on the destroy the enemy hero clause of this hero power. Yeah, that's a nice bonus, but ultimately what you really care about is that you're summoning 2/2s instead of 1/1s. So Justicar Trueheart was played a lot in Paladin, and that was a 6 mana 6/3. And that was mainly for the use of making sure you won your long control matchups, because by instead of summoning 1/1/1, summoning 2/1/1s, you would attrition out your opponents. That's kind of the same idea of this card. You summon a 2/2 instead of a 1/1. It's about the same as summoning 2/1/1s, I'd say. Now, there are some ideas on how you can actually collect some of these. In Wild, you can have Garrison Commander. Standard, you can have Auction Master Beardo, collect some coins with Burgly Bully, and then use those to trigger the hero power a few times. But I think that's probably not going to be that practical in Standard. I think in Standard, you simply toss this into pretty much every single Control Paladin deck. You just enjoy those 2/2s, and sometimes you win the game by destroying the enemy hero when you casually press the button 4 times in a row. Anyways, I'd said something along the lines of that Druid Death Knight might be the best Death Knight we've seen so far, but now that we've seen the Paladin Death Knight, this Paladin Death Knight seems like an auto-include in an already strong deck of Control Paladin. And Warlock gets... Wait, what? A good card? What? 5 mana 4/5 Demon. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. It's got Yeti stats, just costs 1 more, but it's packaging in a really good ability with that. Arcane Explosion at the end of every single turn. I mean, whew, let me breathe for a moment. It's been so long since Warlock's got like an efficient card. And Warlock's one of those classes that lacked the ability other than Mortal Coil to deal 1 damage, so Despicable Dreadlord could easily pick up a lot of value. What Warlock does it fit in? There's currently no Warlock archetypes. I could see this as being the big card in a slightly bigger Zoo. Zoo is always a board control deck. Try to put the opponent's minions all down to 1 every single turn. It's kind of like buffing all of your minions by 1 attack to some extent. Maybe in some kind of mid-range deck, just because it's got such a strong ability. Maybe it fits into a control deck. It's one of those cards that, even though Warlock is trash right now, I would hesitate in rating it 1 star just because it's clearly quite strong. We'll see all the other Warlock cards and see if we can make a Warlock deck. Okay, wow, this Warrior card. Draw 2 weapons from your deck. That's both better and worse than draw 2. But boy, is that good. So it's worse than draw 2 from the perspective of, well, maybe you don't have 2 weapons left in your deck and you only end up drawing 1. Or maybe you needed cards that weren't weapons. But it turns out that it's better than draw 2 because you're drawing 2 of the better cards from your deck generally. I tend not to comment about Arena, but because this is Warrior, and this is in the next expansion, the most recent expansion, and it's a spell, and it's a common, this actually could be the card that saves Warrior in Arena. Maybe the worst will become the best. If you have the coin and you're going second, the idea that you always start with Fiery War Axe in your hand, well, that'll become way more true if you include Forge of Souls in your deck. Probably the only question is, do you run 1 copy of this card or 2 copies of the card? Because the first copy is really good, and the second copy, maybe you've run out of weapons in your deck. But the card is so good that maybe you want to include 2 copies anyways. Now this does seem more inclined towards a control deck, because it's slow in tempo. Any draw card is slow in tempo. But given that this is 2 mana to draw 2 cards, basically, you might even see it in aggressive decks. And more likely in tempo decks. Maybe a 1-of in tempo decks, and then a 1-of or 2-of in control decks. And then maybe even of 1-of in the good old Pirate Warrior. 2 mana, draw 2 cards. Whew. That is some serious value. Especially once that Warrior Death Knight comes out and you can dual wield as your passive. That's going to be so strong. Wait, what? Leaked? No, we saw the Warrior one already. Oh crap, we didn't see the Warrior one. Forget what you just heard. Next up, Happy Ghoul, which has the potential of costing 0. The only condition is you have to heal your hero this turn. So is this going to be the 2-drop for Priest? No longer will you have to meme by healing your face on turn 2. Now you can heal your face and play 2 Happy Ghouls. Note, you actually have to be damaged though, because if you're healed while you're at full health, that doesn't count as healing. Not only that, is that a potential 2 mana 3/3, which would be a great card. You could have 2 mana, 2 3/3s. If you want a really high roll with True Silver Champion and Paladin, you could drop the True Silver Champion, go ahead and play 2 Dread Corsairs for free, hit something from the opponent, and if you're damaged, go ahead and play 2 Happy Ghouls. Note, you do need to be damaged. Can also work in Shaman, can also work in Druid. Healing yourself usually takes a resource from those classes, but incidental healing or having your actual hero power heal you, that makes a lot more sense. And last but not least, Saronite Chain Gang. Happy Ghoul looks like a powerful neutral card, but boy, Saronite Chain Gang, that's like an unconditionally pretty good neutral. 4 mana, 2/3 taunt, battlecry, summon a copy of this minion, so 4 mana, 2 2/3s with taunt. This is the neutral feral spirit. Even if it were just a 4 mana summon 2 2/3s, it seems like it would quite possibly be good enough to play. Kind of similar to Doppelgangster, where 5 mana summon 3 2/2s is good enough to play, kind of. I think Saronite Chain Gang is in the same vein where it seems good enough, but it probably won't unless you have specific synergy. So the specific synergy is you possibly toss it into Evolved Shaman, but the Paladin hand buff, or not even just Paladin hand buff, but the Warrior hand buff deck, and it's been a really long time since the word Warrior hand buff has been uttered, but this card enables both to be so much better. If you toss the Warrior Stolen Goods spell onto Saronite Chain Gang, you're getting a 4 mana 5/6, which summons a 4 mana 5/6. So for a total of 6 mana and 2 cards, you're getting 2 5/6 taunts, which you can play as early as turn 4 or even turn 3 with the coin. Paladin was in a kind of tough spot because it could only really get the hand buff value off of Doppelgangster. Now you can buff both your Saronite Chain Gang and your Doppelgangster at the same time. It even curves perfectly. So there you have it, some very, very powerful cards revealed on Sunday, of all days. Didn't expect that to happen. Keep your eyes on that big Monday reveal.